Hey there. If you're watching this video, you've probably heard that Pastor Tim Keller has gone to be with Jesus. And I just want to take a moment to talk about him and honor him. Right? Tim Keller, without any doubt, has been the most influential pastor theologian in my life. And probably the same is true for many of you watching right now. Back in my 20s, I listened to over 250 sermons on my old iPod as I walked the dog or went for a run on the treadmill or was in the car. I just soaked up his teaching on the gospel and how he applied the good news to literally everything. I learned so much. He taught and modeled how to preach winsomely to skeptics and to have mercy on those who doubt. Right, in a world where a lot of Reformed people can be angry, he was kind and pointed us to the kindness of God. I love that he didn't just point his finger at people and say, "You're a sinner," but took an enormous amount of time and energy to think about the values, goals, and aspirations of the culture and non-Christians and reconstruct their stories in a better way to show how Jesus is better. But he wasn't just a feel-good preacher either. Right? His teaching on idolatry was revolutionary, and it's hard to fully capture the impact of his work in this area. Right? The thing I appreciate most, though, about Tim Keller was his humility. Right? Over the past decade, many great leaders, once again, especially in the Reformed world or evangelical world at large, have fallen. Right? They've fallen from pride or misconduct. They've shaped churches filled with spiritual pride. But Keller remained humble and above reproach to the very end. Tim was also influential to me as a church planner. Though he was a humble leader, he was also an aggressive leader who put his heart and soul into not just filling up stadiums to get people to pray a prayer, right? Which had happened in the decades prior. But he spent his days equipping leaders to plant new churches for the long term. Right? He provided new wineskins that would eventually become church plants that had a higher conversion rate and higher baptism rate, right? Affecting communities and cities long term. Right? Tim showed us how to faithfully contextualize the gospel. He taught us how to answer the questions that the culture is asking and then position our churches to answer those questions and meet the highest priority needs of our neighborhoods and cities. As I look back at my own campus ministry years with Cru, one of the best things I ever did was write a Bible study, a gospel study for college students on the gifts of God, like sex, relationships, alcohol, time, things that Tim Keller talked about. And more recently, as a pastor, I've spent the last 4 years writing and applying the gospel to personality styles and types. And I just want to say that these resources were inspired by and influenced by Timothy Keller. His fingerprints are all over my work and over so many churches across the U.S. and the world. His marriage book, The Meaning of Marriage, is my go-to book for premarital counseling. His book, The Prodigal God, is my go-to book for helping people understand the grace of God toward the lost and, get this, toward angry religious types. Right? In my mind, there is no other leader who has come close than Tim at challenging religion in the West. Tim showed us that there's not just two ways, religious and irreligious, but a third way, the gospel way. Tim's book, The Reason for God, Belief in an Age of Skepticism, is my go-to book to give to skeptics who want a generous and thoughtful response to the biggest objections to Christianity today. This book is like Mere Christianity 2.0. Right? Tim Keller truly was the C.S. Lewis of our day. He provided the new wineskins needed to reach a postmodern Christian context in ways that previous generations and other leaders have failed to do. He was faithfully orthodox, yet a brilliant innovator. Right? I admire him for staying in his Presby denomination, even when he was criticized by so many people within his own denomination for not being Presbyterian enough. Right? He cared more about the kingdom and unity and reaching the lost and connecting different denominations together to reach more people for Jesus. I love that. I hope that history will look back on Tim Keller and remember him for his gospel centrality, his ability to point us to Jesus in every story of the Bible, Old Testament and New, his amazing humility, his church planting around the globe, his winsomeness towards skeptics, and his profound ability to contextualize the gospel for everyone so that everyone will be able to meet the Jesus that Tim is with right now. Well, I hope you feel as blessed as I do, just to create some space today to remember Tim, to honor Tim, and thank our amazing and gracious God for giving Tim as a gift to us. Man, history has been changed because of him.